Thank you for listening to this week's message from Go Church. We hope it encourages you today. For more information about Go Church, check us out online at letsgo.church. We hope you enjoy today's message.
Sometimes the relationships are great, and sometimes they have some challenging seasons. Today, we are launching our new series on, guess what? Relationships, okay? Now, how many of you in this room, you have a relationship that you care about? You have somebody that if you're here with somebody, you better raise that hand is all I'm saying. Raise your hand. Kids, raise your hand. There you go. Raise his hand up high. Yes, it's true, all right? Listen, we all have relationships that we care about, and I want us to invest 3 weeks, including today, on how to do relationships better, how to do them more God's way. How can we submit to the lordship of Jesus Christ in the way that we treat other people, especially the people that we care most about in the relationships that are most important and meaningful in our life, okay? So here's how it's going to work. Today, it is so important for all of you to get your phone, okay? Everybody grab your phone. What we're going to do at the end of this message, and the reason why it's going to be fun today, let me ask you this question. If you believe church should be fun, can I see a hand? Am I in the right place? Am I in the right crowd? Okay, take that hand. Give a high five to the person who just raised their hand on the other side. Yes, yes, yes. If you can't have fun and go to church, where are you going to have fun, okay? We're going to have fun today. Here's why. Because my best friend, my wife, co-hostess with the mostest, Becky Callaway, is going to help me, and we are going to do some live Q&A with you and everybody who is watching online, okay? So everybody online, this includes you, get your phone out because we're going to see all the text messages in one place that come in. So everybody grab your phone. This is the number, 720-438-4221. As I am moving through, a quick little Kickstarter message, little overview, get us started. I need everybody in the house, young to old, take your phone, and I want you to start submitting some questions. It can be about anything in the zone of relationships. It could be about husband, wife, parent, kid, friend, exes from Texas. It can be about any kind of relational dynamic because over the next 3 weeks, we're going to hit a lot of those things, okay? So we're not just talking marriage. We're not just talking a certain thing. So I need everybody in here, grab your phone, and as I go through the message, start sending in those questions because about halfway through, Becky's going to come up, and then we're going to do some live Q&A. Of course, all of these texts are anonymous, and you can ask anything you want. And what we're going to do is if we can't get to all of them, which we probably can't, we're going to take all of the questions, and we're going to look at that data, and we're going to see patterns and trends, okay? So if you want to know what we're going to talk about over the next 2 weeks, it's all coming from what you ask today, okay? So you're setting the plan, and you're setting the agenda for the next 2 weeks. So we're going to talk about what you want to talk about in relationships for the next 2 weeks if you text in. If you don't text in, then it's just not going to be nearly as fun. So I need you to do that. Now listen, Becky and I are going to answer some questions today the best that we can. We'll always have an answer for your question. That answer might be, I don't know, but we will have an answer for your question. And the ones we can't get to, I want to address some on social media and then also the next 2 weeks. So a little bit about me and Becky. Becky and I have been married for 25 years in May. Give it up for Becky for loving me and having patience that long. Becky, thank you. Check out this picture. This is prom. This is like my junior year prom. This is getting married in 2000. So from dating to marriage to ministry to kids to growing older to being in ministry and seeing so many relationships go well and some not go well at all. Okay, so we can have different relationships at our different places. So I want you to learn from our mistakes and to learn from some of the things that we got right. Hallelujah, thank you, Jesus. And today, before we do Q&A, I want to give you 2 ways to elevate all of your relationships in a godly way. I want to start by specifically talking about some marriage stuff because we've got a lot of married folks in the house. So this is a good time to start writing some marriage-related questions and sending them into that number. Here's 2 things. Here's the first way. Write this down. 2 ways to elevate your relationships. Here's the first one. be nicer to each other every year. Every year. Becky and I discovered during COVID, when we were so close together, trapped all the time, maybe you can remember that season, we discovered that sometimes when we spend too much time together, close proximity, that familiarity and close proximity can breed contempt sometimes. And we learned through COVID that we need to become nicer. I learned that I had a tendency to be lazy and selfish when it came to how much energy or how many words I was willing to say or share with Becky. I would be patient with other people. I'd do the video calls in COVID. We'd do all this see people, do things, do some events. But then when I would come home, sometimes I would be the hardest on the people that I love the most. Can you relate to that? Sometimes you have all this grace and you try to be professional and you hold it together and you have self-control. And by the time you get home, all the self-control is gone, and when your spouse asks you, hey, how was your day? You're like, fine. It was fine. I want us all to grow in being nicer to each other every year. Let's look at the scripture. This is 1 Corinthians 13. Love is many things, but today it is this. Love is kind, okay? I want to read this again, and I want all of you to say kind when we get there. Love is kind. Let's do it one more time. Love is kind. It's kind. Think about the very practical goal of being nicer to your husband, to your wife, or to your kids, the most important relationships you have every year, setting a new record and crushing that record, okay, every year. Because I've seen this in ministry and in my own life. My mom's mom and dad, Grandpa Bill, Grandma Ruth McCoy, I didn't come around till they were married like 30, 40 years, and they stayed married, and I saw them grow closer and closer, and they were nicer and nicer to each other every year. And now that would contrast when I would see a lot of other older married couples who would just like nick at each other, just like kind of grate on each other's nerves or say sarcastic things or make fun of each other or, no, that's not right. You know that story's not right. It wouldn't happen there. It happened in this year. And they fight about weird stuff. And Becky and I were like, we don't want to be like that. As we get older together, I want us to be nicer, kinder, more patience, more full of grace, more willing to listen. I mean, she is my person, man. As you get older, it feels like your spouse really is, in some ways, your best and only true friend. That's your person, man. So you want your person to love being around you. So nice. I want you to think about this. Setting a record every year at being nicer and nicer and nicer. Write this down on your communication card. Nice equals more words. So husbands in the house, when your wife asks you, how's your day? Don't be like, fine. Students in the house, when your parents ask you, hey, how was your day? And be like, fine. Okay, what happened at school? Nothing. You have any homework? I don't know. When your person asks you questions and they lean into you and are saying, look, I'm giving you some attention, give attention back, okay? So nice is more energy, it's more words, it's a steely determination, husbands in the room, to say more words than you think you might need to, more often than you think you need to. And when you're answering the question, the most important thing you can say at the end of that is, well, how was your day? And you kick it back. And then you don't have the phone, and then you look and you're listening, and you get better and better and better at that every year. If you will do that with boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, do it appropriately, professionally. When somebody's talking to you, you're having a meeting, you're focused, you're looking. It's more words, it's more time, it's more personal attention. Be nicer and nicer and nicer every year. How? Write this down. 2 ways I want to give you, especially for married folks. This is especially for you. Here's the first one. Pray for them before you talk to them. I want to encourage you, husbands, wives in the house, when you wake up in the morning, first thing you do is say, God, thank you for the day. Love you. Thank you for life. And then the second thing you do, before you see your spouse, talk to your spouse, you just pray for your spouse. I do this all the time. Like, God, I pray that many times for me, it's when I'm walking the dog in the morning. If I'm walking the dog in the morning, I'll pray for Becky a lot and kids. It's like, God, I pray that Becky feels supported today, strong today. Help her feel like she's got backup. Just give her all the grace she needs to do the things that she needs to do. And then what I try to do is to make my actions the answer to that prayer. That I'm going to take it upon myself to try to answer those prayers empowered by the Spirit of God. So I'm going to be encouraging. I'm going to be lifting her up. I'm not going to be nitpicking. I'm not going to be looking at the small little things. I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt. If something didn't happen that I thought was going to happen, I'm not going to make it a big deal. Am I perfect with this all the time? No, but I'm way better than I was first year of marriage, second year of marriage, third year of marriage. So think about relationships as a journey and not binary where it's either good or not good. It is more like a rotary dial. And it's a journey, man. It's not just on, off. It's a step by step by step getting better and better and better. Here's the second thing. Write this down for husbands and wives in the house. With your goal to be nicer every year, write this down. Kiss them for 6 or hug them for 20. Kiss them for 6 seconds or hug them for 20 seconds. We're going to talk about a guy named Dr. Gottman, and he is kind of the czar of relationships, a lot of scientific-based counseling, marriage advice, and he says this about hormones, your brain, relationships, marriage. Now, if we take as truth that God created us, that God created our mind and our body and our hormones, that God's created our bodies to work a certain way, right? So he says, scientifically proven, that when you kiss someone, it literally takes 6 seconds for your brain to make the connection and to release that hormone of oxytocin. That is that safe, I feel like I'm at home, intimate, I'm supported feeling. It's the same thing that is released when babies are cuddled and held for a long period of time. And it takes 20 seconds to do it for a hug. So listen, husbands in the house, what does that mean? Like, see, bro, is not going to cut it when you're leaving the house. So here's my advice to you husbands and wives. Take advantage of all the transitions that we already have in life. So if one of you or both of you are leaving the house for the day or running kids to this place or you're leaving or they're leaving, take advantage of that transition. We're going to do a 6-second kiss or we're going to do a 20-second hug. You're going to have a minute, have a moment, and feel supported in your body, soul, spirit. And then guess what? You get to come home. That's another transition. And maybe it's a transition before bed. There's 2 or 3, 4 times every day where you have an opportunity to get, come on, husbands and wives, a minute of kissing going on. All right? You got a couple of minutes of hugging going on. Do child-appropriate stuff, man, with your kids. Be physical with your kids. Not just always like a quick little hug. And sometimes you got to grab that little guy and bear hug that dude. For me, dudes, both of them. And lock them in, and let them squirm and say, I love you. You're my sons. And you mess with them and wrestle with them, and they feel it. That's releasing that hormone. They feel it. So listen, take time for the people that you love in your life to be appropriately physical with them for body, soul, spirit connection. God made us this way. It's okay. Let's not overlook it, okay? Second thing I want you to write down. And by the way, that's just for husbands and wives, all right, and children. Nobody else. No coworkers, no neighbors, none of that stuff. Think about this, husbands and wives. Never expect or wait for your spouse to produce what you're unwilling to plant. Don't wait for them. Take initiative. You lead you. You do what the relationship needs, and they'll catch on. They'll get it. So husbands, you might need to be the one to plant that kiss. Give that hug. Initiate that thing, and it'll be good. The second thing, write this down. Give the gift of nowness. Nowness. Dallas Willard, I recommend you buy anything Dallas Willard has written over the years. He's passed away now for a while. Great theologian, great teacher. He says, the first act of love is always the giving of attention. Think about that, students. When your mom and your dad, they ask you, how is your day going? That's them trying to connect with you. The first act of love is giving attention, setting maybe a distraction down out of the way. Stopping something to focus attention is maybe the first step of really loving or showing affection, okay? I think Dallas Willard is right in this. Now let's go kind of scientifically, counselor related. This is John Gottman again. So he spent his career studying thousands and thousands of couples, all the scientific data. And the happiest couples were sensitive to what he calls bids for attention. Bids for attention. So husbands, this might look like your wife comes out of the closet. Becky came in twice today, and she was like, do you like this shirt? I could have been like, it's fine. She wouldn't have felt loved or appreciated or seen. And she came in and she said, what do you think about this outfit? And so I'm like, well, I think the shoes and the brown or the white. She came in with this black outfit that was like all kind of like rock and roll. And I was like, it's kind of a rock and roll. Like, if you're going for the look, I'm going more neutral today. But if you want to, do it, it looks good. I'm trying to lean into what she cares about. If you are married and your husband or your wife likes to send like Instagram reels to you for like 2 hours on the toilet. Husbands, even if you've seen that reel before, you better act like you've never seen that reel in your whole life. You need to laugh, you need to watch it, and you need to act like it's funny, and you need to get into the zone of the energy that your wife is in. And here's one thing you never do. When your wife sends you the reel, you got to be real careful. Do not like it too fast. She knows how long the reel is. And if you like it too fast, it's like, oh, yeah, I like that. But she knows you didn't watch it, okay? Bids for attention. So, wives, if your husband today, and it goes both ways, they're football fans, that's open for anybody. But sometimes, guys can be a little bit more into stuff like that, super passionately. And maybe they're super into the game today. Like Super Bowl, man, I got the wings ready. I've been marinating the meats. I've been working on the barbecue. They're ready. They're excited. They got their jersey on. They've got their Chiefs unitard on underneath their clothes. Probably for in this zone here. They're right over here. Probably got one on. I can feel it. But you might not like football, right? How many games did Taylor Swift go to before she started dating Travis Kelce? Probably not that many. But she likes the guy on the field. She's going to support him, be there for him, and maybe some football is fun along the way. So today, if you're not super into the game, but your husband or your wife is, you know what? Just get in there. Get in there with the dips. Get in there with the wings. Get in there with the action. Get in there with what they're excited about, and lean into that call for attention. Whether they'll say it or not, they want you with them experiencing the vibe and the energy of that game together. That's what they want. So give them what they want. So nice means more time, more energy, more words. God can help you. How can we do it? Write this down. Here's one practical way that we can give the gift of nowness. Write this down. Put the phone away and look their way. Put the phone away and look their way. Imagine if every Sunday, including today, I would just hold my phone. Every time that you came here, and you were at Go Church, I was just holding my phone. When we're talking after, I'm just holding my phone. And it's buzzing and beeping, and I'm looking down. Or sometimes what's even sneakier is like the Apple Watch. Like, it's just on you, and you hear, you're like, and you're just looking down, all these notifications. To you, it feels fine, and you feel like it's no big deal, and it feels like you're connecting. The other person is like, hello? They want to be the primary focus of your attention when they are talking to you. That's just how it is. That's what they want, whether you can actually multitask it or not. My wife, Becky, can multitask 8 things in a row, and she technically can. Like, do this, and she's playing Go Church stuff and music over here, and I'm talking to her, and Sydney comes in, dog. She's doing all the things. She's like an octopus, doing things all at the same time, super efficient. But when I'm talking to her, I don't know what it is. I want all of her attention. I want her to drop the other tentacles of things and look at me in my eyeballs and talk to me, even if she can do the other things. What if you have some people in your life that are like me? You know you can multitask it and functionally get it done, but the other person needs more. Are you willing to just say, okay, I'm going to give them what they need, and I'm going to take this phone, and this is true for business meetings, professional things. I mean, you've been there, right? The meeting, the lunch, people come in, what do? Put the phone on the table, right? Oh, but if you're being really, really courteous, turn it over, because that makes a big difference, right? It still doesn't make noise, and it's still like it's not there. Just take it, turn it off, put it away, and go person to person, face to face, as much attention as you can give them. I'm telling you, your relationships will get better and better and better when you learn to remove obstacles for either party. Here's the spirit of it. It's Romans 12:10. This is just kind of an attitude that I like. Be devoted to one another in love. Now, of course, Paul's talking about one another in a brother to sister Christian Jesus follower sense. So if this applies in that capacity, I would think it especially applies in marriage capacity or family. Be devoted to one another in love. Honor one another above yourselves, which means if you're being nicer, if it's a 6-second kiss when you don't feel like it, or it's a 20-second hug when you feel like you got to get out the door, and whatever, later. We'll do it later. Where you're pausing and you're taking time. You're making a sacrifice. Sometimes that's what your relationship needs. See, a real good relationship, it thrives on mutual submission to each other, ultimately to God, but mutually submitting to each other and each other's needs. The person in your life might need something that you don't need. So it's easy to forget that they need that and never do it. But as time goes by, you start to get better and better and better at sensing that. And the more that you remove obstacles, and you do this way, honor one another above yourselves. When you take the phone, and even if you can multitask, and you say, oh, that's a bid for attention. They're like, they want to talk about their day. Let's do it. Let's talk about the day. Oh, they want to talk about an outfit. I'm there for it. Okay, it's real time. She's sending it to me. All right, it's on. We're sitting next to the couch. We're doing it. We're laughing. We're sharing the things. We're doing all of it. Write this down today. It's a bonus. The more present you are, the more irresistible you become. Give your person your best. And if that means you give the professional people in your life and all the things and all the responsibilities and all the work and all the stuff a little less, I say give them a little less. Don't be horrible, don't be bad, don't be rude, but save your best for the people that you love the most. And self-control is an expendable asset as the day goes by. So lead yourself that way. Learn to lead yourself and to know this is how much I can give and not give in the day to come home and give my family or my spouse the best I can give them and make adjustments. And it's a journey, man, all right? Relationships are what the kingdom is built on. Let's talk about it. Becky, let's do this. If somebody could help grab those chairs, let's pull them up. And I cannot wait to talk about what you want to talk about. So time is not up. Take your phone, send in a question, and we would love to talk about that. Becky has all the answers. Isn't that right, Becky? All the answers? All the answers. So do you have one that would be good to get started with?
I do. Okay, let me see. So
This is my wife, Becky. If you've never met Becky, can you give her a round of applause? This is my wife, Becky. She's
Hello.
amazing. All the things. I would still go to prom with you.
Oh, thanks. We went to 3 proms together.
We toured up.
With 2 different high schools. Okay, so this is kind of coming off what you're just talking about, bid for attention. What would you do if a bid for attention occurs when I'm really trying to unwind/de-stress?
I would just say fine. I think that could go both ways. Mm-hmm. If you've been with somebody long enough, you have probably picked up on their rhythms that when they come home from work or come home from a thing or come home from having the kids or whatever, they're destroyed for like 10 minutes, right? So learn to adapt and say, even though I've been waiting and I want to talk and I want to jump in and I want to do this, I can go 10 minutes. And if it doesn't always work that way, The other person who needs to unwind, but maybe sometimes they don't get the chance, really resist the urge to think, you don't care that I'm tired? Well, you don't care that I had like a hard day? How come you don't even care about me? Try to work on, normally we're great at this. There's something that must be extra important, and they're not trying to like hurt me or make it hard for me. It's just important for them. And I'm going to dig deep right now and give them the benefit of the doubt. That any doubt I have of you just trying to like wear me down more or make me do something I don't want to do, you're selfish. Just give them the benefit of the doubt and say they truly are not trying to get me. They're just really excited about something they want to talk about, and I believe that they're good, not that they're trying to get me. And sometimes when you're married for a long time or you're in a relationship for a long time, parents, kids, parents, it's hard to give each other the benefit of the doubt all the time. It just is. We just scrape on each other's nerves sometimes. It's a discipline to believe and to always be in that zone of they want the best for me. Sometimes they don't. That's a different kind of question. But if you're in a healthy relationship, trying to default to they love me, they want the best for me, they're not trying to get me, and operate from that perspective instead of being like suspicious or worn thin all the time and ready to jump on stuff all the time. What do you think?
No, it's really good. I don't have much to add to that. I think that's great. I want to preface all of these questions by saying Nick and I are not professional counselors. And if your relationship or you are in a crisis, please get professional help. We have resources for those kind of things. So this is just based on our relationship with the Lord and our marriage for 25 years. So just wanted to put that out there. So no, I thought that was a really good answer. I think and coming off of that, and there's some questions related to that, I think so many successful marriages happen because it's two people serving each other. And we live in a culture that says, put yourself first. And what you need is more important than what anybody else needs. And I mean, we're fed that message all the time. And that is so not biblical. And if you read the Bible and you look at it, it's like I was just saying in Romans chapter 12, and then it's like, what greater love than to lay down your life for someone else? And there's times when, there's a lot going on in my life, but you know what? Your needs are going to be important to me. And there's times when, it's been really stressful. We have 3 kids. We had 3 under 3. Sydney was 3 when our twins were born. So it was wild, right? And it's stressful. And I think parents with young kids, that is one of the most stressful times in a marriage because you are exhausted. And there's so many bids for attention and there's so many things needing your attention. But I think it's, there's when I'm overwhelmed and when I'm in those moments where I'm like, you're getting on my nerves, the kids are getting on my nerves. I found that if I surrendered in that moment and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to sit down on the floor with the kids. Because it was me trying to do something else and they're running around throwing stuff and put my phone in the microwave, which they did once. Bonkers. But I found that if I sat down with them on the floor, everything just went and it was just like being with them. And like the same with you, there's times when it's been stressful.
I'm pretty much a child. Just sit down with me on the ground.
When you try to put my phone in the microwave, no. There's times when it's been stressful and I would choose, I'm going to be like, I'm going to love him more today. I'm going to do things that I know he likes. I'm going to go, he's a words of affirmation guy. I'm going to go buy a card. I'm going to go write in it. I'm going to go, do things that are his favorite. And I found in those moments when you can push past the me and start looking outside of yourself, that's when you really, I think, start to see like things just come back to a place of peace and serving each other.
Well, I think what you're talking about is part of our mission, living like Jesus. This is something we can't just self-willpower our way through this. Mm-hmm. All right, I'm going to be nicer, dang it.
Right.
That to love someone is outside of our own selfish inclinations. It is otherworldly to really love someone, to unselfishly choose for the highest good of someone else. Yeah. The power to do that can only come from somewhere else. So I would really be monitoring in all relationships that your relationship with God is the most important relationship and that it's healthy.
Yeah.
Normally, when I see married couples or families struggling, it is reflective of their struggle in their relationship with the Father. Usually, someone in church who's mad at the church or mad at me is really mad at God. And they take it out on the church or take it out on me because it's tangible. You can see it. So your relationship with God gets reflected into every other relationship. Let me say it even more plain. If you have an unhealthy relationship with God, you're not going to have a healthy relationship with people. You're not going to have healthy relationships with people until you have a healthy relationship with God. And you can only love people as you understand His love for you, grow in love for Him. Then He gives you what you need to love people that are sometimes difficult to love. And I have seen Becky do this, especially with our daughter, Sydney. Sydney was born with special needs, and she asks basically the same 3 or 4 questions all day. I mean, literally all day. I mean, she will ask the same 3 questions or 4 questions hundreds of times a day. And I get sick of it. And I tell Becky, I'm like, just block her on your phone.
I won't do it.
And she won't do it. Block her. She's just right there in their bedroom, but block her. No. I mean, Becky she'll answer it and try to help her calm down. And I don't know how she does it. I'm telling you, the only way she can do it is just there's God in her loving that girl.
The Lord.
I'm convinced it is the Lord.
The Lord. Okay, so let's go on to some conflict kind of things. So when Nick was wrong that one time, how did you move through that wrong? There's only been once, really, probably. What were some tactical things that you did to move through that wrong? So Nick and I process things very differently, and I think a big part of healthy relationship comes from getting to know that about each other, like how he communicates, how he receives, and vice versa. So Nick is a verbal processor, no surprise there, right? I'm a pretty internal processor.
You're pretty much saying I talk too much.
I mean, it's your
That's
job.
okay.
That's
I
what
agree.
you do. I'm a very internal processor, and so I'll just think about things on my own and figure it out, and and so when we would get in an argument or it's about things like I need a timeout, right? Like I need a minute. And Nick's wanting to follow me from room to room.
Room to room.
We will resolve this now. So that's what helps him move forward. And for me to move forward, I need a minute, right? Just give me a second to figure out, because your brain automatically wants to go to rage, right? I'm gonna fight. You're backing me in a corner, I will fight you. And so for me, having that moment, having that minute of just trying to figure out, okay, what are we really fighting about here? What's really going on? And
can I jump in?
Yes, please.
So I still have to fight this in my own self because she does need time. But the first thing I feel is, oh, you don't care enough to talk about it? Not important enough for you to push through the discomfort to talk about this issue? And that's just me losing my patience and being selfish and lazy. I know what she needs. I don't want to give it to her. I want to do it my way, and my way is now. I'll follow her around the house. One time I followed her from room to room, and she finally went into the bedroom, and I went to follow her, she locked the door. So
we've grown since then. That was many years ago.
That was last week. No, I'm kidding.
Today after church. No. So no, I think, being in a godly marriage is different than a worldly marriage, right? So if there's a wrong done, you base what happens next on forgiveness, because that's what God has done for us. And it's a different way to look at things. You have to obviously communicate. I think it's smart to communicate, hey, here's what happened, how I felt about it, how it made me feel wrong, but to try to do that in the most godly way possible. Now, I'm not saying things don't get heated from time to time, right? Because we're people and we have emotions, and God gave us those emotions. But just remembering to have grace through it all. And I know that when I fight with Nick, I'm not leaving him and he's not leaving me. So there's some safety there of even if we push each other, I know we're going to make it through on the other side. It's going to be stronger. We're going to be better on the other side of it. Did you find one?
These are some really good questions.
I know.
So can I keep going on these and maybe adjust some of the other things in the day?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this question I thought was just
yeah.
super practical and pretty normal. How do I get over my first love? Probably slowly.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just some things where, a relationship ends, where you really care about a person and it did not work. It's like grieving for someone who passes away, or, parents that get divorced. It's just sometimes grief takes as long as it takes, and you can't really rush it, and sometimes you can't get over it shortly. I think time does help, but it might not cure it. What helps you live with grief, and we've had loved ones die, and there's even a part of Sydney's not here. There's a part of Sydney's existence because there's a lot of things she can't do or won't get a chance to do, right? She won't get a chance to have a marriage or be married or have kids or go to college or have a job or career like you and I know, or to have relationships like that you and I might know about, like with marriage and stuff. There's a lot of things she can't do physically, and so there's even some element to living in a funeral, in a sense, of where you grieve because you see things that she can't do. But I can't let that stop me from living, right? And I can't let that make me mad at her. It's not her fault. So when you lose someone and you can't fix it, like I can't fix Sydney and her health stuff. You can't make people feel a thing. You just can't. They have their own free will. So you have to lead you, and you have to take care of you. But I would give yourself enough time, sometimes maybe 6 months to a year. If it's a marriage, probably longer than that, to grieve. But then I would try to come to terms with, well, really, my first love is Christ. In the book of Revelations, when the letters go out to the churches, you've lost your first love. Come back to me. Come back and do the things that you used to do. That a human should never be your first love. God should be number one, your spouse number two. And when we start looking to get from people what only God can give us, we do them a disservice because it's impossible. And we live frustrated because we're looking into the wrong spot for a solution that only God can provide. So in any relationship, you're accountable for the health that you bring and the dysfunction that you bring. And you got to look out for you. Yeah. So I would say time, have grace for yourself. God does. That if they're not the right person for you, think about it like this. I believe that God has somebody better for you, even though it's impossible to think that way. It's like, oh, but there's no way, I love them so much. That it's probably better that it ended when it did, instead of 8 years from now when you've been strung out and you've lost a lot of time. And also, that means maybe they're the best person for somebody else. And that's all right. You have any thoughts on that? You can go to a different question.
No, that was good. I'm going to go to a parent-child relationship.
These are good questions, by the way. Very good job, team.
So
online, all
this
the
one
things.
says, how do I know God is working if my relationship with a parent isn't changing? And I think that's a really good question, because there's a lot of things that we go through that we feel like, how do I know if God is working or not, right? Because there's times we don't physically feel or him or hear him. And so there could be things that you're going through where you don't know what God is doing. And that's really hard. And I don't think, we can ever fully reconcile that until we get to heaven. And I think God's timing is different than our timing in a lot of ways. We don't always know what he's doing behind the scenes. And on kind of what Nick said earlier, you can only control what you're doing in the moment. So are you working to serve and love your parent, and then if you're doing all those things, that's all you can control. And eventually, hopefully, they'll start to come around and strengthen that relationship. What would you say to that?
If this is to a student or somebody young, it's not your responsibility to fix your parents. It's just not your job. It's not your responsibility. I'm totally with you in it, wanting to be healthy and wanting to be good and wanting it to be the way that you need it to be, but you can't change them. You can't transform them. You can't save them. All you can do is pray for them and just be the best son, the best daughter, be the best person that God has created you to be. Becky was so good at this. She had a crazy family. Her mom and dad got divorced. They got married, then divorced, then married themselves again, then divorced, and it was all chaotic. And she did not have a great family growing up, but I saw her live like Jesus in front of them. I mean, it was just amazing and frustrating for me to see because I was ready to cut them off. I was ready to be like, they don't bring life to you, they bring death, cut them off, let's move on. And she just wouldn't do it. And she would just love them. Her mom has passed away, and I know that Becky can hold her head feeling like she has done everything that she could do with her mom. She was right beside her when she passed away and always was the one who was reaching out and taking initiative for her mom and her dad. And it's still that way with her dad. And we can't fix that. But we live like Jesus. We don't wait for other people to deserve love or to deserve anything good. We don't wait for that. We do it because he first loved us. And that's hard. As a student, I would say that's years down the road to really get that. But just know they're not your problem to fix. Love them. Just love them. Be a great part of the family. And pray for them like crazy. Bring them to Go Church. Introduce them to godly friends and family. Get them involved in a group. Get them playing pickleball with Chris and his group. And you just never know what God can do. So don't give up on them. Just love them.
Yeah. No, we have some really good questions. This has been awesome. We're going to take a lot of these and, like Nick said, create some more messages in the couple of weeks to come. But why don't you transition us, and I'll get the worship
let's do
team
this.
up.
Let's do this. Let's do 2 songs, all right? And then let's do our mission. And what I want to do now is I want us to do communication cards. Let's do giving. Let's do focus on God. And then let's push into 2 songs together. Really think about our relationship with the Father as his children and how the way that works makes everything else work or not work. There's a lot of questions in here on things like, man, what do you do when the other person isn't trying? What do you do if you're a single parent and you can't find any time for anything because you got 3 kids and family time is hard, having like identity is hard? These questions are in there like this. We're going to answer a lot of that over the next 2 weeks and online, but the principle is, unless you understand God's love for you, I don't think you can even love yourself the way that God wants you to, the way that you were designed to. You can't love others unless you love yourself. You can't love yourself unless you know who you are in Christ and who you are in God. You're a child of God. And so as you move forward in your journey with other people, you can never do that divorced from your relationship with God. It's not either or. It is always and with God. Never independent of or from God. So if you are unwilling to turn to God and to get your relationship right with him, I think you need to change your expectations on what you really expect to see in your human relationships. You're going to have a lot of frustration and a lot of hurt. But if you will turn to God and say, God, I want to learn what it means like to be your child, for you to be my father, to be loved, to love, and out of that, you give me what I need to love my spouse, my husband, my wife, my kids, my friend, my coworker, that person that really gets on my nerves, an annoying family member. That's the only way it will work. It's the only way. Any other way is just a humanistic attempt to do it all through skill and willpower, and it's never going to work. So let's turn to God.
Thanks again for listening to this week's message. To stay in the know with Go Church, be sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at letsgo.church. You can also download our app from the App Store by searching Go Church. Have a great week, and God bless.